Healing my swollen joints with a carnivore-based diet. Dr. Robert Cassar, eartheracademy.com. Rethinking reality. And the reason why this is rethinking reality, guys, because you would never think in this reality that we're being pushed that you could decrease the swelling of your joints with a carnivore or flesh-based diet. Or you can even say meat-based diet, but I call it a mitochondria-rich diet. So let's get into this. Now, as you all know, I've been on a plant-based diet for pretty much 15 years. And plant-based, pretty much, you know, you're calling it, well, plant-based because it's basically 99% plants. And I had a few eggs in there and a little raw butter and some raw cheese. Now, I started having joint problems about maybe my 10th year in, and my back started to get really sore. I started to get very stiff. Remember, I used to be able to do the full splits, and it took me years to be able to get the full splits, really working on it. I mean, hours a day pretty much, stretching every bloody day, yoga every day for a long time, and then yoga maybe 3 times a week for years. So now what happened was on my 11th and 12th year, I started to get very stiff joints. And I'm talking my neck, I had to stretch it all the time, my spine, feel like I have to crack it all the time. My elbows, my shoulders, when I'm working out, I felt like I had to really warm them up a lot more just because I was a lot stiffer. You know, it's like warming up is, well, only necessary sometimes when you feel like your joints are stiff. So what happened is that I basically got so inflamed that I couldn't even walk up the stairs. I stopped doing squats, and that's putting a bar on your back and working my legs, you know, putting pressure on my spine and everything, because it just, forget about working my legs, it hurt my back, hurt my knees, it hurt my joints. So this is what I noticed. I noticed over time that everything kept getting stiffer and stiffer and stiffer and stiffer. And then I started to get pain. Then I started to get weakness. Then I started to limp. Then I started to be able to say, shoot, doing push-ups, my elbows creaking, my wrists feel like all of a sudden they're like going bone to bone. So to me, this was a very much a lack of collagen that I was not getting in my plant-based diet. This was a lack of essential micronutrients that I was not getting in my plant-based diet. This was a lack of creatine, okay, real creatine, creatinine, taurine, all the vitamins that realistically are just present in animal-based products. And I was taking, remember, lots of superfoods to be able to try to combat this possible malnutrition system, is because the plants are definitely way harder to digest. Remember, plants, most of them are insoluble fibers, and we have a hard time getting a bioavailability to them only because we don't have a fermentational gut. Remember, apes have a fermentational gut. They have a rear fermentation chamber. You have ruminant animals, all different types of animals that have a anterior or a front rumen fermentation gut. So, you know, and I did have a lot of fiber in my diet, a lot. And that caused me, forget about the gut dysbiosis and everything, that comes first with a plant-based diet, with a vegan-based diet. You'll notice that your stomach is going to get bloated. You're going to notice that, well, you start having indigestion problems. Start feeling like maybe you got diarrhea or constipation, and you're pooping way more than you should, only because you're probably eating a lot more, only because your body is not satisfied with the amount of calories and or nutrition that it's getting. So the more plants you eat, the more, of course, you got to crap them out, because 80% of these plants that you're eating, remember, are insoluble. You can't break them down, so you got to poop them out. And the opposite is on the meat-based diet. So when you eat like a big steak, 80% of that gets absorbed, and you're only pooping out maybe 20%, so you poop really small. But anyways, now, what I've noticed, and I've been on this diet now for about probably 8 months, massive changes in the way that my joints now have swelling. Not only that, I'm doing squats in the gym now. Why? Because I can. I walk up the stairs and I don't feel like I have to go up one stair at a time, you know, like limping up the stairs. I'm walking up a slight upgrade, and my hip is just killing me inside, and I don't want to look like I'm limping, is because I don't want to look like an old guy. So this is what's happened to me, and this is why I changed my diet, because of the inflammatory reactions of taking too many plant systems in my body at one time. So what I did was basically I cut out all the oxalates in my system. I just did a nice 3-hour lecture yesterday to the retreat group. They're on their 11th day of fasting on oxalates and radio frequencies, which are, of course, all parts of the assaults that we get on a daily basis. But let's get back into joint inflammation. In time, after, well, you sort of get along with your gut dysbiosis, meaning that you've got gut problems and you just sort of deal with them. Now you start getting joint problems, and joint inflammation is because your body is definitely, remember, oxalates will form in any place they can. And if you have inflammation in your joints, you have inflammation in your prostate, inflammation from, well, anything in your body, what happens is, even putting a phone up to your head, you get inflammation in your brain from the microwave transmissions. You wind up getting oxalic acid, okay, free form, or oxalic crystals. Oxalic crystals in the form of calcium oxalate crystals forming. These crystals can be micro small, and they start to go ahead and accumulate on the joints. And when they accumulate on the joints, you start having problems with your joints. They start to swell, they start to ache, they start to feel like all of a sudden your joints are, well, not like they used to be. You start feeling like an old guy. Look at an older person as they get older. Their body is oxalate ridden. When's the last time you've taken a break from oxalates? This is what I'm telling everybody right now. You have never taken a break from oxalates, guys, because that means you have to take a break from the plants. You have to take a break from all the different things that have oxalates in them. Animal products do not have the oxalates in them at all. Okay? If anything, they have maybe micro amounts. They have none. But when you look at soy, you look at almonds, you look at cacao, you look at all the greens, pretty much most of the greens, you wind up seeing that beets, all these different vegetables, are loaded full of oxalates. Yeah, you can cook them out a little bit. You got to process them. So raw veganism basically is going to make your joints get a little sore, and you'll wind up, and it's not on everybody, but it happened to me. And I'm just giving you a report of findings. Guys, again, do as you wish, but be careful. The plant-based diet will, in time, give you gut dysbiosis, just from all the pesticides, insecticides, and herbicides, and fungicides, and all the things that are processed in a box. Okay, you're eating all these things in boxes, cans, and of course, that's not even talking about the oxalates, the lectins, the isoflavones, the phytoestrogens, which are, of course, plant estrogens. I mean, you got all the different types of assaults that are on your body constantly without giving them a break. So this is what happened to me. My joints just started to get worse and worse and worse. Weaker, stiffer, more sore, and finally, like I said, I started to limp. Working out is like a chore, because I had to feel like I have to really, put like 3-4 sets just of warm up, just to make it so my joints will say, okay, hey, you're going to go ahead and lift a little heavier weight. So this is what happened. Over now a 6-month period, my joints have been healed about 90% of the swelling that I had before. Remember, my joints in my hands were stiff. My joints in my wrists, my elbows, every time I would do a push-up, I would feel like my joints were weak. And in time, like I said, I really got worried, is because my joints were swollen in my hips. My legs got so skinny from just basically getting dysbiosis. So what happens is you get dysbiosis of the gut. You're not absorbing bioavailability from the plants anyways, but once you start getting leaky gut syndrome, once you start getting a inflammatory reaction of the gut, now it's downhill for everything. Think of the cells in your intestinal tract. Remember, only have 1 cell thick. That's it. The intestinal tract is 1 cell thick. That's where you eat food, it goes through your gastric system into the intestinal tract, and this is where you get absorption. And I'm on a fiber-free diet right now, okay? Fiber-free. And if I have some fruit, I'll chew the fruit up and I'll spit it out. I'm going to work out now. Look, I got some fruit. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go work chest right now, 45 minutes, and I'm going to do an intense exercise. I'm going to have the fruit to be able to give me super energy. those carbs. I don't have any starches right now. I don't have any seeds. I don't have any nuts. I don't have any greens. Why? Because I'm healing my gut. Watch the video we just did on healing my gut. So now it's healing my joints. So in the beginning, my joints were feeling better, but the immediate thing is my gut was feeling better. And I did go through about maybe a month's worth of oxalate dumping. So you have to watch that also. And you're going to get a lot of diarrhea. Why? It's because your body's unloading oxalates. Your body doesn't want these oxalates in your system. It doesn't want them in the kidney stones. It doesn't want them in the gallbladder, gallstones. It doesn't want them in the muscles, sore muscles. It doesn't want them in the joints. Okay? Your body starts to unload these things when you start to increase the amount of saturated fats. So I'm having a lot of raw butter, raw cheese, even raw kefir milk. Unpasteurized, and then try to go ahead and get a lot of these saturated fats in my body, which help break down the oxalates. So the oxalates, remember, are in your joints. They're scratching up your intestinal tract. They're accumulating in your kidney, your thyroid. So these are a very deep assault. And again, you get dysbiosis in the beginning, generally, and then secondarily what you get is you get joint pain. So right now, all of a sudden, I've got a miraculous change in my joints, miraculous, from just eating meat, because I'm not having any oxalates in my system. But I did go through a lot of oxalate dumping, which means that my body, instead of me putting them in, my body's now going to get rid of them. So you may even have more problems when you're oxalate dumping than you are slowly accumulating the oxalates. So I've been taking some potassium citrate, magnesium citrate, having maybe a third of a cup to half a cup of lemon juice, hot tea at night on an empty stomach, to be able to help break down some of these oxalic acid crystals that have formed in my joints. And miraculously right now, on the 6th month to about the 8th month now of doing this carnivorous diet with fruit when I work out, I've had a miracle happen, because all of a sudden I'm not limping anymore. I feel like, again, I can do, well, things that I couldn't do for the last 2 years. I'm going to try doing some bike riding coming up here. I haven't been able to ride my bike for 2 years just because of my hip, just because of my knees. It felt like I was getting way more irritation than I was getting exercise or benefit, so I stopped doing it. Again, I stopped doing squats 5 years ago, and remember, I was still working out in the gym, but I stopped doing squats is because it started hurting my back, started making inflammation. And if I'm making inflammation in my body, any inflammation that I'm getting in my body, if I take in a lot of oxalates, then those oxalates are now inflaming the areas that have inflammation. So think of oxalates as like ground glass, or like very sharp diamonds, or sharp shrouds of glass. And these oxalates can be in nanoform, they can be in microform, and microform means you can see them on microscope. You can see them also in macroform because they start to accumulate on your joints. Osteoarthritis, look and think about maybe also this oxalate formation on your arterial walls and your vein walls, venous walls. So anyways, the carnivorous diet has massively helped my inflammation in my joints. And again, if you're going to do this carnivorous diet, then guys, you got to exercise. You just do. If you don't exercise, then what are you doing? You're using an anabolic diet, okay, to rebuild yourself. I'm on a rebuilding diet right now, and I've gained 22 pounds so far. From 127, I'm up to 149 pounds right now in about 8 months. Miraculous. Okay, I'm not taking testosterone. I'm not taking any hormones. Okay, I'm not doing anything other than eating an anabolic diet by itself. So I have fat and protein. I have about 65% protein and maybe 30% or so fat together with my meals. I don't mix them with anything. I just have salt on my food. And what a beautiful thing. It takes me about 2 hours to digest that, so I don't put any waters or liquids or dilute my gut wall acid at all, because I want to break this very dense, high-quality protein and high-quality saturated fat down in my body. It absorbs inside my body. So I'm eating about at least 2 pounds of mitochondria a day, flesh mitochondria, which is, again, something that I haven't done in 15 years. And I do have eggs, cheese, butter, grass-fed, grass-finished liver, kidney. I'm doing a lot of of ground beef. Remember, it's got to be grass finished. It's got to be grass fed. If it's not, then what are you doing? You're just eating a bunch of toxic garbage. So, you know, it does make a difference what kind of flesh that you eat. You don't want to eat infected animals. If you eat infected animals, well, then you get infected yourself. You eat infected fish, you get infected yourself. That's right, there's parasites in the flesh. I've always talked about this, on infected animals. And if your animals are not infected, well, then you don't get infected. So, yeah, anyways. All I can tell you guys, if you're having joint inflammation, then the best thing you can do is get off the plants, the seeds, the nuts, the grains, the greens for 6 months. Give it a try. Don't be shy. So, you know, and maybe a lot of you people won't want to do this. Why? It's because maybe, you know, you're not sick enough yet to be able to switch it up, to change it up to a different type of diet. Remember that these plants have defense mechanisms inside them. They do not want to be eaten. Okay, you may think they do, but they don't. So you have to process these plants. You have to process all of them. And eating a raw vegan diet is very dangerous for people after a little while, because you know what happens to you? You wind up, well, getting all the plant toxins without any breaking them down at all. And if you don't break the plant toxins down, and I'm talking, you've got goitrogens, okay? Goitrogens, they're messing up the iodine intake in your thyroid. So a lot of people have slow thyroids, you have problems with your thyroid, and you're taking all these thyroid medications. What are you doing, guys? Has your doctor ever told you to get off all the goitrogenic plants? Okay, let's say guys with man boobs. Okay, you go to the doctor, he says you got gynecomastia, says you have low testosterone, which about 60% of the males do. Okay, that's ridiculous. Well, has your doctor ever told you that, well, maybe you should stop eating phytoestrogenic plants? Maybe you should stop eating things like, well, that have been sprayed with atrazine, glyphosate, because maybe they're also estrogenic. Okay, all you got to do is look up atrazine and look up what it does to frogs and insects and animals. Okay, it causes them to become estrogenic, causes them, males, to actually become effeminized. It turns male frogs gay. I'm not making this up. This is what Dr. Haynes found out doing his research on atrazine. And from there, what happens is it makes the frogs actually turn into effeminized males, and then they go to females that could actually produce eggs and even have babies just from 1 part per billion of atrazine in a solution. Okay, of having these organisms be able to soak up this stuff. Don't you think that it's a problem for us if it does this in plants? Or excuse me, if it does this in insects, if it does this in small invertebrate animals like frogs? Of course. Think about it. Okay, physiology is physiology, biology is biology. Things with eyes, nose, ears, okay, and have brains all have similar biology. This is why I'm rebuilding myself with things that are similar in biology to me. I'm rebuilding myself with flesh that is similar in biology to me. Similar. I am not a ruminant animal, and if I eat like a ruminant animal, like a sheep, I do become a sheep. Okay, and I start to go ahead and fart like they do, start to belch like they do, and I don't even have a fermented chamber. So what happens is I can't break that stuff down. And all I'm doing is causing myself in time stress to my gut, and I'm causing stress in time to my joints because I become malnourished. And malnourished is not good because it takes you years, if you even can. If you malnourish yourself, it takes years just to go ahead and get nourished again. This is a big problem. So guys, all I can tell you is better be careful. Okay? Be careful on what you wish for. You want to have the vegan diet? Remember, it's a fast. Okay? Vegetarianism. You're doing that most likely because your doctor said meat's bad for you. Well, it is bad for you if you eat conventionally grown garbage meat. Of course it's bad for you. Okay? Anything like that is bad for you. So, anyways, all I can tell you guys is it's time to, really do research on oxalates, lectins, isoflavones, goitrogens, phytoestrogenic plants, phytoestrogenic essential oils. Wow. There's a lot of things that if we eat, we become effeminized, and that's not good for males. All I can say is that I see I'm going to the gym now, and I'm going to see all these young men in there, and most of them have man boobs. Like, I'm looking at a guy right now, he's got man boobs. Okay, poor guys. What's that? What's the deal? Well, again, do you really think that phytoestrogenic plants are good for you to eat? And if you do, then, again, God bless you. All right? You're not doing your research. You're eating all these types of plants that have defense mechanisms called phytoalexins. And these plant defense mechanisms, okay, are very powerful. Yes, they are. And if you don't think they are, again, you're missing the boat. So, let me take this off my little holder here. Just wind this up. Okay, so life is, again, but a series of choices. And once we find out, okay, that, raining outside a little bit, once we find out that, you know, we can change the way our physiology is, very simply, then, well, how are you going to do it? Okay, how are you going to do it? And I'm doing it right now by eliminating all the things I know that are inflaming me. And those are the plants, the nuts, the seeds, the greens, and the grains. And if you've got inflammation in your joints, guys, then it's a good idea for you to take a break because of the oxalates that you've accumulated. And if you don't think you've accumulated oxalates, guys, then all of a sudden you're just dreaming. Okay? We accumulate oxalates on a daily basis depending on what we eat and how we, well, exercise. And we do have a lot of different protocols to be able to shrink down or reduce your oxalates in your body that you've accumulated, Earth Academy. Okay, the sauna techniques, the gouaching techniques, a lot of different protocols that we share basically are for you to not only use the plants as a detoxification and cleansing, okay, type of a diet, but in time you will have to refeed yourself. You will have to rebuild yourself. And that's what the meat does. Meat will heal you and plants will detox you. Just keep that in mind, okay? Plants do detoxification and cleansing, and meat will refurbish your joints, your muscles, your tendons, your nerves, is because that's what you're going to eat. You eat the liver, you rebuild the liver. You eat the kidney, you rebuild the kidney. You eat skin from an animal, then all of a sudden it rebuilds your skin. Like I said, I've gained 20 pounds. Check out my beard, man. I got 3 weeks worth of growth on that thing. I've gained 20 pounds now, and my eyes aren't as sunk in my head anymore, okay? And you know, like I said, I got down to 127 pounds. So anyways, we'll see you guys on the next video. Aloha, and take care of yourself. And if you have swollen joints, then, you know, you may want to go ahead and do the experiment I'm doing because it's worked wunderbar. My gut has been healed from staying away from all these inflammatory types of things that, of course, I didn't even know that were inflaming me. Again, in Espanol, cuidado, okay? Cuidado means be careful, okay? Anyways, we'll see you guys on the next video. Aloha, it's time to go work out. Woohoo! Aloha.